The napkin was still warm when I picked it up. Someone had folded it twice and slid it under my glass like it was nothing, like it wasn't about to split my life in half. I didn't read it right away. I just stared at the condensation on my drink, watched it drip onto the tablecloth, and told myself I was being dramatic again. That's what I always do. I minimize. I doubt myself. I swallow things that feel too sharp to go down. When I finally unfolded the napkin, there were only 5 words written in neat, confident handwriting. Check the service hallway. Now. My heart started doing that stupid flutter thing, the one that makes me feel weak and embarrassed at the same time. I actually looked around to see who might have sent it. No one was looking at me. No one ever looks at me. I'm invisible in rooms like this. Too quiet, too careful, too easy to overlook. The party was loud. Not fun loud, just expensive loud. Glass clinking, forced laughter, music that existed only to fill silence. I hadn't wanted to come. I never want to come. But she insisted. Said it would look bad if she showed up alone again. That word, again, had stuck with me all night. I stood up slowly, smoothing my jacket like I belonged there, and followed the discreet exit sign toward the back of the venue. Each step felt heavier than the last. I kept telling myself this was nothing. A prank. A misunderstanding. My brain is very good at lying to protect my feelings. The service hallway smelled like cleaning chemicals and old carpet. Dim lights. No music. Just muffled noise from the party bleeding through the walls. I took a few steps forward, and then I heard her voice. Not loud. Not panicked. Intimate. I stopped. I didn't mean to eavesdrop. I swear I didn't. But my body locked up before my brain could catch up. I knew that voice better than my own thoughts. I'd heard it half asleep at 2 a.m., complaining about nothing. I'd heard it whisper apologies that never really fixed anything. I'd heard it say, "I love you," like a habit. She was laughing now. Then a man's voice answered her. Low, amused, comfortable in a way that made my chest tighten. Too comfortable. I didn't see anything explicit. No touching. No kissing. Nothing that could be screenshot and explained in one sentence. Just closeness. Familiarity. The kind that doesn't belong to coworkers standing in a service hallway at a formal event. I leaned just enough to see them reflected in a metal catering cart. She was standing too close. Her body angled toward him, not away. One of her heels was off, dangling from her fingers like she'd been there a while. Like she wasn't worried about being missed. And then, this is the part that broke me, she glanced up. Her eyes met mine in the reflection. The laugh died instantly. Her face didn't show guilt first. It showed calculation. Like she was running through scenarios, trying to decide which version of me I was going to be tonight. The quiet one? The forgiving one? The one who looks down and lets it go? She didn't say my name. She didn't chase me. She didn't explain. She straightened up, slipped her heel back on, murmured something to him I couldn't hear, and walked past me without a word. She went straight out the side exit. I stood there alone in the hallway, my hands shaking, my throat burning, feeling small in a way I hadn't felt since I was a kid getting picked last. People say betrayal is loud. For me, it was silent. Clinical. Efficient. She thought leaving first meant control. She thought my silence was weakness. She thought wrong. And I stayed at that party long enough for the truth to start talking for me. I didn't follow her out of the building. I didn't storm after her, screaming or sobbing like some cliché husband caught in a movie scene. Instead, I turned around, went back into the party, and made my way to the bar like nothing had happened. Except everything had. My chest felt like it was full of cement, but my hands were steady. That scared me more than anything. Because when you've been broken enough times, you don't shatter anymore. You just go quiet. I ordered a club soda. No lime. No ice. Just something to hold so I didn't clench my fists and give myself away. While the bartender turned his back to grab a glass, I pulled out my phone. Not to text her. Not to ask questions. I didn't want answers. I wanted proof. I opened the Find My app. It was something we'd set up years ago for emergencies. She used to joke about it, said it made us feel like one of those techie power couples. Lately, though, I noticed she kept toggling it off. Said it drained her battery. Said she forgot to reactivate it. Tonight, though, it was on. The little blue dust showed she was still close. Around the side of the venue. I zoomed in. Not in motion. Stationary. Which meant she hadn't left. Not really. Just retreated. Hiding. Probably composing her story. Maybe texting the guy. Maybe texting me something half-true. hoping to buy herself enough time to rewrite the rest. But she didn't know I wasn't waiting for an apology. She didn't know I was already planning my next move. While sipping my soda, I looked around the room. People were dancing now, looser than before. Suits unbuttoned, heels off. I recognized faces I barely cared about. Co-workers she mentioned only when gossip was involved. One of them, Angela, was leaning on the edge of the bar, tipsy and chatty, already deep into her third glass of something bright pink. I slid over beside her. "Hey, Angela," I said as casually as I could manage. "You know the guy Callista was talking to earlier? Silver tie, dark hair?" Angela turned to me and laughed. "Oh, that guy? Of course. Marcus. He's married. His wife's in Aruba this week." "Why?" "Married. Of course." I shrugged. They seemed pretty close. I was just wondering if they've worked together long. Angela gave me that look. The one people use when they know something, but feel too polite to say it directly. Let's just say, office happy hours get blurry around him. But don't worry. Callista's a grown woman. She knows what she's doing. Yeah, she does. Too well. I smiled, nodded, and thanked her like that answer didn't make my stomach twist. Then I went to the coat check, handed over the stub she gave me earlier, and waited in silence. When they handed me her coat, something dropped from the inside pocket. Her phone charger and a receipt. From a restaurant. Not tonight's. Last week. Dinner for two. No alcohol. A shared dessert. One check. Signed with a heart. The restaurant? One we said we'd try together. She told me they didn't have vegetarian options. Lied through her teeth. She went without me. Not with friends. With him. And she used our joint credit card. That's when I felt it. Not heartbreak. Not even rage. Just clarity. I wasn't losing her. She'd been gone. I was just the last one to realize it. And tonight? She thought walking out of that hallway would be the end of it. But what she didn't know was that she had just handed me all the quiet ammunition I needed. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to expose everything. One step at a time. I didn't go home that night. I didn't text her, didn't ask where she went after she slipped out of the party like a guilty shadow. Instead, I took her coat, the receipt, and that weighted silence she left behind, and booked a cheap hotel room 15 minutes away. It wasn't much. The heater rattled like it was on life support, and the view was just the back of another building, but it was quiet. I needed quiet. I laid the receipt out on the desk and stared at it like it was a confession letter. Same date, she told me she was working late. Same restaurant we'd bookmarked months ago on her Pinterest board, back when she still included me in her future date ideas. I remember the post. It had candlelight and some soft piano music in the background. She said, "This is where I want to go when we finally get time." And then she went, with someone else. I sat there for a long time just reading the itemized list. 2 entrees, 1 dessert, still warm lies carved into paper. She didn't even try to hide it. And maybe that's what burned the most. The ease of it. This wasn't some heat-of-the-moment slip. This was coordinated. Booked. Paid for with our money. Eaten like guilt had no flavor. I opened my laptop and started digging. Social media. Company newsletters. Photos from events. I had never cared much for her office world. It always felt like a different planet, orbiting far from mine. But now I was an archaeologist digging through the ruins of my own life. And then I found it. A photo from a networking event 2 months back. Callista standing next to Marcus, the man from the hallway. Her arm around his waist. Not just casually placed, but intimately settled. Their bodies leaned inward, not like strangers, not like co-workers. Like people with shared secrets. People who had practiced this dance more than once. But what caught my eye wasn't the pose. It was her necklace. The same one she wore last night. The one I knew wasn't hers. The caption? Dynamic duo closing deals. Deals. Sure. At some point, I stopped feeling like a husband and more like a detective no one had asked for. But I couldn't stop, because every click gave me another puzzle piece I didn't know I was missing. I checked her email. We shared logins for emergencies. This felt like one. Nothing obvious in her inbox. But the trash folder? A goldmine. Deleted messages confirming dinner reservations. One from Marcus. Last night was perfect. You looked stunning in that red dress. Next week, your place? My hands were cold. My mouth dry. But still, nothing dramatic. I didn't scream or throw my laptop across the room. I just sat there. Quiet. Numb. She thought I'd never find out. Or maybe she thought I'd find out and just accept it. Like I always did. Like every time she rolled her eyes at my insecurity or brushed off my questions with a kiss that tasted like manipulation. But now I had everything I needed. I didn't want revenge, not the way movies paint it anyway. I wanted her to feel what I felt. Not through yelling, not through chaos, through consequence. So I started writing a letter. Not a dramatic, teary goodbye. A statement of facts. I listed the receipts, literal and emotional. I attached the photos. I printed Marcus's email, and I folded it all neatly into a plain envelope. She left me silence at that party. I was going to return it, but I'd make sure it echoed. I delivered the envelope myself. It was early Sunday morning when I drove back to our apartment. The city hadn't woken up yet. Streets were empty. The sky was still that bruised purple color, like it hadn't decided if it wanted to be night or day. It matched how I felt, suspended, not sure if I was still married or already something else entirely. I parked around the corner. Didn't want her to see my car and get any warning. I walked the block in silence, the envelope pressed flat inside my coat. It wasn't thick, just a few pages, but it felt heavier than anything I'd carried in years. When I reached our door, I didn't knock. I didn't hesitate. I slid the envelope through the mail slot and walked away without even glancing back. No note, no signature, just facts. A mirror. Let her sit in that silence and see what stared back. Then I did something I hadn't done in a long, long time. I turned my phone off. Completely. No notifications. No calls. No last-minute explanations. No fake apologies typed through crocodile tears. I needed space. Real space. Before the storm she'd created came chasing after me. Because it would. Callista didn't like silence. She hated not having control of the narrative. I checked into another hotel, one with a view this time. Something facing the water. I wasn't there to heal. I wasn't there to cry. I just needed time to think without her voice clouding everything. For the first time in our relationship, I had all the pieces, and she had no idea what version of me she was about to face. By mid-morning, the texts had probably already started. I wouldn't know. The calls. The voicemails. Maybe she cried. Maybe she cursed. Maybe she blamed Marcus. Maybe she blamed me. But I was unreachable now, and I could only imagine how much that infuriated her. I spent the afternoon watching the water move, letting my mind float with it. I thought about the little lies, the ones I ignored because I didn't want to look too deeply. The girls' nights that always ended with her makeup too perfect and her phone face down. The weekends she swore were for yoga retreats, but came home with no tan lines and a scent I didn't recognize. They say hindsight is 20/20. I think that's crap. Hindsight isn't clarity, it's shame wearing glasses. And I was drowning in it. By sunset, I turned the phone back on. 23 messages. 7 missed calls. 1 voicemail from an unknown number. I played it first. It was his voice. Marcus. Hey, Emery, I guess. I think you sent something to Callista, and, listen, man, whatever's going on between you two, maybe we should talk. Things aren't exactly how they look. And I didn't know the full situation, okay? I didn't know she was still with you. I laughed. Out loud. In the middle of that quiet hotel room. That sharp, bitter laugh that doesn't come from humor, but from being so far past furious you're already numb again. He didn't know? He didn't know? She wore our wedding ring to the restaurant. I saw it in the photo. She was never hiding me. She erased me. I scrolled through her texts next. The first few were what I expected. Where did you go? We need to talk. This isn't what it looks like. Then they shifted. Please don't ruin everything. It was a mistake. Don't you dare embarrass me like this at work. There it was. The real Callista. Not the wounded partner begging for forgiveness, but the woman afraid of consequences. Afraid the illusion she built so carefully was cracking in front of people who mattered to her. But guess what? I still hadn't said a word. And the silence? It was just beginning. Monday morning, I showed up at her office. Not to make a scene. Not to shout or break things, or give the kind of performance she could twist into "See, he's crazy." No, I wore my calmest face, my softest voice, and a jacket I hadn't put on in over a year. One she always said made me look too serious. That's exactly the point. The receptionist recognized me. She gave me that tight, awkward smile that people reserve for men who are about to find out something they already know. I asked if Callista was in. The receptionist hesitated, eyes flicking toward the hallway behind her. Then she said, "She just stepped out for a meeting, but if it's urgent." "It's fine," I said, smiling. "I'll wait." She offered me a seat. I didn't take it. I stood in the lobby like I was rooted to the floor. My fingers were locked behind my back like a soldier on silent guard. I didn't need long. I just needed the right moment. 15 minutes later, Callista walked through the main doors. She didn't see me at first, her head down, tapping something furiously on her phone, her hair pulled up in that tight bun she wore when she wanted to look like she had everything together. She looked up and froze mid-step. Her eyes widened, then narrowed. That flash of panic, quickly masked by practiced calm. "Emery," she said, like my name was something she had to remember. "What are you doing here?" I didn't answer immediately. I waited. I wanted every single person at that front desk, every coworker walking past, to feel that tension in the air. "I just wanted to thank you," I finally said, voice low but steady. She blinked. "For what?" "For setting me free." That's when her mask cracked, just for a second. She opened her mouth to respond, but I cut her off. "I left a few things in the apartment. I'll be by tonight to collect them. You won't see me again after that." "Emery, please," she whispered, suddenly moving in closer, her voice frantic but quiet enough not to draw attention. "Don't do this here." "No," I said. "You already did." Her hand reached for my wrist, but I pulled back. Then I leaned in slightly and whispered what I knew would gut her. "You might want to check your email. Your boss should have received my letter by now. With attachments." Her face went pale. Not flushed, not furious. Pale, like she'd been unplugged from the inside. That was the moment she realized this wasn't about saving us anymore. It was about saving herself. She stepped back like I'd just struck her. "Goodbye, Callista," I said, loud enough for the receptionist and 2 interns by the printer to hear. And I walked out. I didn't turn back. I didn't need to. Because this time, she was the one standing alone, clutching at silence she couldn't control. And for the first time in our entire relationship, I was the one who chose the last word. Or better yet, no words at all. I didn't go to the apartment that night. Not right away. I parked 3 blocks away, sat in the car with the engine off, and watched the windows from a distance. Our living room light was on, the one she always left dim to create a relaxing evening vibe. I used to find it comforting. Now it just looked staged. Like she was trying to make the space feel warm in case I actually showed up. In case she could pivot the story back to "let's talk," or "you misunderstood." Like mood lighting could reverse betrayal. But I didn't come to talk. I came to collect my reality and leave hers behind. I waited another 20 minutes before getting out. I didn't rush. I took the elevator up in complete silence, keys already in hand. When I opened the door, the apartment smelled like lavender and panic. She'd clearly cleaned, surfaces wiped, candles lit, one of those indie jazz playlists she liked humming through the speakers like a soft lie. She appeared from the kitchen, barefoot and wearing my college hoodie, the one she always stole when she was cold. Her makeup was minimal, her eyes swollen, like she wanted to look wrecked but still salvageable. She didn't say anything at first, just stood there with that rehearsed expression, the one people wear when they've decided how you should feel. "I made tea," she said softly, like that meant anything now. I walked past her, straight to the bedroom, grabbed the suitcase I'd stashed years ago under the bed, back when I thought we might travel together more often. Funny, that suitcase saw more hope than our last 3 vacations combined. She followed me to the doorway. "Can we talk?" I didn't respond. "Please," she said, her voice cracking now. "Just 5 minutes. I'll tell you everything." "You already did," I said, tossing clothes into the bag without folding. "With your actions." She stepped closer. "It wasn't serious, Marcus, it was a mistake. A stupid, meaningless mistake." I stopped packing, turned to face her. "If it was meaningless," I asked, "why did it keep happening?" She froze. That's when I saw the truth in her face. Not the tears, not the shame, but the calculation. She had expected anger. Or pleading. She didn't prepare for clarity. For calm. For a man who no longer needed her to admit it out loud. "I can't undo it," she whispered. "I don't want you to," I replied. "I want you to live with it." I zipped the suitcase, grabbed my documents from the desk drawer, then walked past her like she wasn't even there. At the door, I stopped, turned back one last time. "Oh, and Callista? The letter to your boss? That wasn't revenge. It was insurance. I'm not going to ruin your life. I'm just going to remove myself from it." Her lips trembled. She stepped toward me like she wanted to stop me with a word, but she had already used them all on someone else. I walked out. This time, I didn't flinch. This time, the silence was mine. I spent the first night back at my brother's place. He didn't ask questions, just handed me a spare key, pointed to the guest room, and left a pizza box on the counter like that was all the therapy I needed. And honestly, it helped more than I expected. No probing looks. No advice I didn't ask for. Just silence. And carbs. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, not haunted by what I'd seen or heard, but by what I'd ignored. The nights she'd flinched when I asked about her phone. The way she'd stopped saying love you, unless I said it first. The way she used to talk about our future, then suddenly started saying I instead of we. I should have known. I did know. But knowing something quietly is different than being forced to face it in the harshest light possible. I checked my email in the morning, not expecting much. But it was there. A message from her boss. Short. Professional. Brutal. Emery, I appreciate your discretion in bringing this to my attention privately. I assure you the matter is being handled appropriately. You will receive no further correspondence on this topic. That was it. I read it 5 times just to make sure I hadn't imagined it. Her boss wasn't going to cover for her. Whatever she and Marcus had spun at work to keep things under the radar, it wasn't strong enough to survive daylight. Their dynamic duo had cracked. And from the wording, it was clear I wasn't the first to notice it, but I was the first to expose it with evidence. She texted me again a few hours later. The tone had shifted completely. Gone was the apologetic, heartbroken wife. Now she was angry. Accusatory. Like I had somehow betrayed her. You went too far. You didn't have to drag my work into this. Do you even care what this does to my reputation? I didn't respond. Instead, I finally did something I should have done months ago. I booked an appointment with a lawyer. Not because I wanted to sue her. Not because I was preparing for war. But because I needed out of the marriage legally, cleanly, and permanently. I didn't want her to twist this into some prolonged emotional hostage situation where she kept dangling the maybe we can fix it card in front of me. No, I was done. At the lawyer's office, I explained everything. The affair, the receipt, the email, the silence. He nodded like he'd heard it 1,000 times, which, I guess, he probably had. But when I told him I wanted to waive spousal support and keep the settlement clean and quiet, he looked up. You sure about that? He asked. You've got grounds for a lot more. I don't want more, I said. I want peace. He nodded, scribbled some notes, and gave me a folder full of forms. By the time I walked out of that office, the air felt lighter. The sun felt like it actually touched me again. For the first time in years, I was walking through life without someone else's lies dragging behind me. I didn't tell her about the lawyer. I didn't need to. She was going to find out the same way I found out about her betrayal. Without warning. Without fanfare. Just silence. And papers. The divorce papers were delivered on a Thursday afternoon. I didn't send them myself. I let the attorney handle it. No message, no dramatic cover letter, just a clean envelope with her name on it, and the truth folded neatly inside. She texted me 5 minutes after the delivery confirmation came through. Are you serious? You're really doing this? After everything we've been through? But there was no we anymore. Not after what she chose. Not after the months, years, of erosion she swore was just stress, or me overthinking. I didn't reply. I had nothing left to give her. My silence wasn't petty, it was peace. And I wasn't letting her take it from me again. 3 weeks later, I moved out of state. It wasn't dramatic. I didn't post some starting over status or throw a party. I just packed my few boxes, loaded up my car, and drove until the skyline behind me faded into memory. I found a small town near the coast, quiet, affordable, with a view of the ocean from my apartment window. It wasn't fancy, but it felt like mine. Every corner, every breeze, every inch of space unmarred by lies. I got a job working for a nonprofit, something simple, meaningful. I didn't tell anyone about Callista. I didn't bring her name with me. I was just Emery. No backstory, no drama, no label that said cheated on husband. Just me. And then one morning, something strange happened. I laughed. Not a bitter, sarcastic huff. A real laugh. The kind I hadn't heard come out of my mouth in so long I barely recognized it. It happened while talking to a woman at the farmer's market. Her name was Nora. She sold handmade jam and wore overalls like it was still 1997. We joked about how bad I was at picking ripe peaches. She teased me. I smiled. And for the first time in forever, I meant it. It didn't feel like rebound hope or a desperate search for comfort. It felt light. Like maybe not everyone in the world spoke in half-truths and carefully constructed manipulation. Nora didn't know anything about my past. She didn't need to. She just knew how to ask questions that made me want to answer honestly. She laughed with her whole chest. She didn't check her phone mid-conversation. She listened. Weeks passed, then months. We had coffee, then dinners. She met my brother, who whispered to me after, "Don't screw this up." I told him, I don't plan to, because I'd learned what to protect. I'd learned how to notice the signs. But more than that, I learned how not to disappear into someone else's life again. One day, Nora asked me, "Do you ever miss her?" I shook my head. "Not her," I said. "Just who I thought she was." And that was the truth. Callista texted me once more, months after the divorce was final. Just a simple line. "Do you ever wonder what we could have been if I hadn't messed up?" I stared at the screen, smiled faintly, and deleted the message without replying. Because I didn't wonder. I already knew. If she hadn't messed up, I never would have left. And if I never left, I never would have found this. My life began where she thought it ended. And that, to me, was the best ending of all.